Before we actually get into the business of the day, I wish to make a few announcements. Number one is this commission is sitting with 3 commissioners. The fact is that of the entire commission, 4 commissioners recused themselves from hearing this matter due to what could have been conflict of interest. Those persons who are recused themselves are the substantive chair, Mrs. Wade Miller, Commissioner Binns, Commissioner Linda Milligan White, and Commissioner Frederica Forth. Those persons have recused themselves from hearing this matter due to perceived conflicts of interest. So as a result, you now have remaining Commissioner Starling, Commissioner Stovall, and myself, Commissioner Parent-Chief, sitting as chair for this matter. Council, if you would wish to make your input and start the matters for the day.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Commissioners. Morning, everyone present. Just to indicate as a follow-up, Chairman, in terms of what has just been said, as a result of the announcement just made, the Commission has amended its rules and procedure to facilitate this posture that has been taken, because in the circumstances, a majority of the Commission has had to recuse itself for what may be perceived as a conflict of interest in respect to the matter. The matter before us today, Chairman and your members, is a claim number 024. But before we have the substantive matter being heard, on the last occasion after Exhibit 1, what was determined to be VF1 was made an exhibit, it was determined that an adverse notice should be sent to Sir John Swan. It arose out of the witness, Ms. Franco, reading from Exhibit 1 and reference being made to a particular property being owned by a named person and a Supreme Court case, 1976, number 84. In that regard, we're asking, contact was made formally with Sir John Swan. This morning present is Mr. Nicholas Swan. He certainly can't speak for himself, but the matter is here this morning for standing formally to be done. We have no objection to any application for standing, but I'll allow Mr. Nicholas Swan to address you and your commissioners at this time.
Good morning, Commissioners. On behalf of my father, Sir John, I would like to thank you, Mr. Chairman, and the rest of your commissioners for allowing me to stand in his stead. He apologized for not being here in person, but due to the COVID situation on the island, he thought it would be prudent in this initial stage to have him self-represented by me. Going forward, he would certainly make himself available to the Commission as needs be. And I would like to thank you for, for considering us for standing in this matter.
Yes. Council, I seek direction as to whether the witness representing Sir John Swan should be put on oath at this stage.
It may not be necessary at this stage to do so. The that would not be required. What I will ensure is done, which has been done partially, is that the documentation will be shared with Mr. Swan. He has already been given a document, the document which is the exhibit, the only exhibit that will be copied and given to him before he leaves, and the other supporting documents which the witness prays in aid of the claim which is being made, those will be made available electronically, and it will be done certainly
Yes.
within the hour.
All right, and just again for clarification, if Sir John's son, would you give your name in full, just for the record?
In full, my name is John Nicholas Swan.
And I'd ask, therefore, that an order could be made, Chairman, given standing.
Yes.
The relevant documentation will be provided by the Secretary to you after for signature, but I just ask you to make the order at this time.
Let us so ordered that John Nicholas Swan, representing his father, Sir John Swan, be given not only standing but also
he has been given actually the access to the documents
Access to
electronically
documents.
has been provided.
yes, that he be given access to all documentation concerning this matter.
Thank you very much.
Thank you all very much.
What we propose to do at this stage, we have some ways to go, but the witnesses who are here, and I understand a third witness is actually connected by Zoom. We would have all the witnesses sworn again, but we're actually going to commence or continue the process of leading evidence in this matter. With regards to the matter, I am of the opinion that at this stage, no disadvantage or an unfair scenario would present itself with regards to Sir John Swan or Mr. Nicholas Swan. With that regard, we have some way in terms of any evidence which would be led, which purports to in any way to be directed at Sir John Swan, it is to come. So even if he is not here today, as I understand his intention, we have some way to go that he would not be disadvantaged.
Thank you very much, Counsel. And if you would proceed with swearing the witnesses at this time,
Thank you.
and taking note that a further witness, a third witness, is on Zoom.
Could, we just have at that point, we'll have that witness actually acknowledge. So we'd ask that the witnesses are sworn or they are permitted to affirm to speak the truth. Could you just remove your mask? Could you raise your right hand? Turn this way, please. You could just fit the commissioners.
I swear by Almighty God.
No, oh, you're swearing. You don't need to raise your right hand. Just hold the Bible in your right hand. Hold the Bible in your right hand. And you may go ahead now.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. So help me God. Swear.
Hold the Bible in your right hand for me, please.
I swear by Almighty God that the evidence I shall give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Use this Could you just do the right number?
Yes, sir, would you like to affirm or oath?
No, let us see if can we get him on the screen first so the commissioners can see him. Can you remind me of his name? Huh? Mr. What? Mr. Morris?
Hollis.
Mr. Hugh Hollis?
Yes,
Good morning, sir.
good morning.
Would you wish to swear on the Bible or affirm to speak the truth, sir?
I can swear on the Bible.
Okay, you have a Bible with you, sir?
Yes, I do.
Are you able at this time to allow us to have a video access just for the swearing?
Yes, sir.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm not seeing. My apologies. Do you have the Bible in your right hand? Could I just ask you just to hold the Bible in your right hand?
Yes, I have the Bible in my right hand.
Good. And the oath will be read to you. I'm just going to ask you to follow what is read as slowly and clearly as you can. Thank you very much.
I swear by Almighty God
I swear by the Almighty God
that the evidence I shall give
that the evidence I shall give
shall be the truth,
shall be the truth,
the whole truth,
the whole truth,
and nothing but the truth.
and nothing but the truth.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
Morning, ladies. Morning, Mr. Hollis. Now, Ms. Franco, on the last occasion, document which is VF1, which is projected on the screen, a letter dated 16th March 2020. I'm just going to ask you just to take us back there, just to read that document again. You have a copy of it. One is being handed to you now for your benefit. You have a copy?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, Counsel.
I'm just going to ask you to read that document again for us so we may...
This is my letter dated the 16th of March, 2020, addressed to the Secretary of the Commission, reference to the inquiry into historic land laws in Bermuda. Dear Justice, Ms. Norma Wade Miller, OBE JP, Chair, Commissioner of Inquiry into Historic Land Laws in Bermuda. I, Velda G. Charlotta Franco, write on behalf of our living and deceased family for the injustice we have suffered in reference to the above mentioned. My great-grandmother, Miss Charlotte Ellis Wood Wellman, and my grandmother, Miss Margaret Genevieve Hollis, née Wellman, fought to the death to have the following land returned to them that was passed down to them. 1. Originally owned by Grace Charlotte Phillip Oates, who left the property to Charlotte Ellis Wood Wellman. In her last will and testament, the property was left to her grandson, Mr. George Stamford Llewellyn Hollis. Then it describes the property at number 11 Bosses Cove. Number 2, property owned by Charlotte Ellis Wood Wellman, which is now, according to records,
Before you go any further, the description that you referred to, just above where it's the property is currently owned by the Cabral family. Below it, you have the description, the assessment number, building name, address, and grid reference. That's correct?
yes, Counsel.
Okay. Thank you. Please proceed, Madam.
Number 2, property owned by Ms. Charlotte Ellis Wood Wellman. And according to the research that I've done, it states that the minors currently reside in this property, which is now number 18 Bosses Cove.
And Charlotte Alice Wood Wellman, any relation to you?
My great-grandmother.
Thank you. And before you go any further, when you had mentioned the very first property, where you have the properties currently owned by the Cabral family, any relation to you?
No, Counsel. The files are not related to me.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Number 3, property owned by Ms. Charlotte Ellis Wood Wellman, plaintiff, Supreme Court case 1976, number 84, between Mr. Leroy Pike, first defendant, and Mr. John W. Swan Limited, second defendant.
Yes, please continue.
Number 4, property owned by Ms. Margaret Genevieve Hollis Nay Wellman in the area of Bosses Cove, Pembroke Parish, that was sold to Mr. Carl Hugh Piver.
Before you go any further in relation to number 4, Mrs. Margaret, how do you pronounce that?
Genevieve.
Thank you. Hollis Nee Wellman, any relation to the family?
Yes, Counsel, she was my grandmother.
Thank you. Please proceed.
Number 5, property owned by Ms. Margaret Genevieve Hollis Nay Wellman, lot of land on east side of Bosses Cove, now called High Point Road, Pembroke Parish, holding deeds of the inlet on both sides east and southwest of Bosses Cove. Re, the land application number 20558, applicant, the Dallas Family Trust, February 28, 1992. Number 6, property owned by Ms. Margaret Genevieve Nay Wellman, buildings erected on the entire Places Point Road to Blocks Point Road to Showa Park, Spanish Point, Pembroke, by Mr. Kenneth Simmons and others.
Before you go any further, in respect of mention of Mr. Kenneth Simmons and others, any relation to you or your family?
No, Counsel.
Please proceed.
Number 7, property was owned by Ms. Margaret Genevieve Hollis Nay Wellman and passed on to our daughter, who is currently the owner, Ms. Cecilia Lynn Can, JP. And the property in question is number 1, Newman's Lane, Pembroke.
Thank you. Now, in respect, before you continue, in respect of these, based on my count, 7 properties. How many of them actually are presently occupied by your family?
None of them, Counsel.
Thank you. Could I just ask you to read the paragraph starting, "We thank you."
We thank you for giving us the opportunity to have a voice, and we would also like to inform you there were other parcels of land taken from our family from Bosses Cove to Shorewood Park, Spanish Point, Boat Club to Mills Creek, Pembroke.
But in respect of these, you'd require some more time to do some more research.
Yes, Counsel.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Counsel. Just a point of clarification back to your previous question. You inquired as to whether the family occupied any of the listed properties. Is that the 1 through 7? Yes?
That was my question, and I will.
So does occupy mean, do you mean earn as well? Because your aunt earns the last one, is that correct? Number 7?
My aunt, for number 7, which refers to number 1, Newman's Lane, she owns it, but she doesn't occupy it.
Okay, I just wanted to make that distinction. Thank you.
Thank you. And in respect of number 7, and where you have stated in Exhibit VF1 that it is owned by the current owner, Mrs. Celia Lynn Khan, who is seated next to you,
Yes,
she has all the rights and of access and to do what she wishes with that property.
yes, Counsel.
However, the other properties that you have listed, the family is claiming an interest in all but does not have the rights to do as they wish legally with the properties. Is that correct?
That's correct, Counsel.
Now, having written that 16th of March letter to the Commission of Inquiry, you received a letter on the 4th of May 2020 from the Commission of Inquiry acknowledging your 16th of March 2020 letter and asking you to provide some information. Is that correct?
That's correct, Counsel.
A copy of that document is being shown to you, Madam. The 4th of May 2020 letter which was sent to you. Is that a copy of a letter which was sent to you, Madam?
Yes, Counsel.
And you have the original that was, thank you.
Yes, Counsel.
So, Chairman, the 4th of May 2020 letter from the Commission of Inquiry consisting of 2 pages acknowledging receipt of the claim of Ms. Franco on behalf of her family. I'd ask that it be tendered and exhibited as Exhibit VF2.
For the record, our response letter from the Commission of Inquiry to Ms. Valda Franco, dated 4th of May 2020, be exhibited as item VF2. All right, consisting of 2 pages.
Now, in respect of that document which was sent to you, could I just draw your attention to I just ask you to read first from 1 through to 7.
Yes, Counsel. Number 1, in your letter, you reference several pieces of property. Please set out who, where, the original owners for each of the properties and the facts on which you rely to assert that current owners of these properties are not legally entitled to such ownership. 2, are the 7 properties part of the original estate? Was there a subdivision? And if so, who applied for the subdivision? 3, were the 7 properties purchased from the original owners or his or her descendants? And if so, how much was paid for the properties? 4, please provide the Supreme Court decision in 1976 between Charlotte Ellis Wood Wellman, plaintiff, and Leroy Pike and John W. Swan, Limited, defendants. 5, was the 1976 decision appealed? 6, if you are asserting that the 1976 decision was in error, on what base do you make this assertion? Number 7, are there any other facts that, in your view, the Commission should take into account in deciding whether standing ought to be granted?
Thank you very much. Now, I'm going to share with you, I'm going ahead of myself a little. I'm aware that you would agree with me on 29 June 2020, you sent a response to those questions to the Commission of Inquiry. Agreed?
Yes, Counsel.
However, I just wish to first and foremost bring to your attention an email which you sent dated July 5, 2020 to the Commission of Inquiry, setting out your efforts to research and collect information for the submission. You recall sending an email on the 5th of July 2020?
Yes, Counsel.
So I want to show you a copy of the email and thread.
Thank you.
Is that the copy of the email and thread that you had sent to the Commission of Inquiry, Madam?
Yes, Counsel.
Chairman, I'm going to ask that that document and the email thread dated 5th July 2020, it consists of 2 pages. Going to ask that it is tendered and admitted as exhibit VF3 and ask that the witness be allowed to read it.
Yes, the document as described, email dated 5th of July 2020 from Valdo Franco, 2 pages. Exhibit VF3. You can carry on.
Thank you. It's not projected, but the witness will read from it
Yes.
to indicate her efforts.
Thank you.
The subject of the email is registered letter dated May 4th, 2020 from myself to the Secretary of the Commission. Good morning, Ms. O'Brien. I refer to our recent conversation on June 30th, 2020 when I dropped off the packet. I would like to advise my experience in trying to research and collect information for my submission. I will start with the Land Title Registry Office. First, let me say thank you to Mrs. Debbie Reed and staff who were very helpful and accommodating. Here are my concerns to do a search that was not an easy task. Number 1, I used the land tax valuation site to get the correct address and the assessment number. Now I need to know whose name the house property is registered to. The Land Tax Department is unable to provide this information. Number 2, I then had to sort through an index starting from 1972 to date to find a name and/or an assessment number that was relevant to my search. Number 3, once I found what I was looking for, I then had to look into a filing cabinet for documents, photocopy, then use that document to work to the present to find further information or documentation and/or work backwards to obtain information or documentation to help with my research. Number 4, the documentation in the filing cabinets only go back as far as 1972, and any date earlier was in big heavy binders that were not user-friendly. You had to look through each page in the binder to find what you were looking for. Number 5, I also had to look in the alien registry books, the mortgage books, the land transfer books, the voluntary conveyance books, etc. Number 6, if all of this information was entered into the system database using this assessment number or a unique number to just land, each person cross-referenced to the assessment or a unique number for just land, this would be a better system for searching. Also, all information entered, just as if you were completing a hard copy form. The person's first name, any middle names, last name, Any aliases? Number 7, every person named on the document should be entered into the system, i.e. the property was acquired by Mr. and Mrs., example, Winifred Soares, in the reference index, if only had one person's
Sorry,
name.
excuse me. Could you?
Sorry?
Yes, thank you.
Sorry. Number 7, every person's name on the document should be entered into the system, i.e. the property in question I was researching, the property was acquired by Mr. Joseph and Mrs. Winifred Soares in the reference index if only had one person's name. And if you are not aware of the names involved in your research, you will very easily miss the information. Number 8, every time a change is made to the record, it should be a new page to the record, or the information should be added on a new line to be searchable. Number 9, the information added should also include all law firms on a separate line. Number 10, the information added should also include all banks involved on a separate line. Number 11, also the information should be checked and signed off as there were many inconsistencies in the names, i.e. Mr. Pike was found as Mr. Like, L-Y-K-E. That's my submission.
Thank you. I just thought it important, Chairman and Commissioners, in the scheme of things that we're doing, to share that email. Because
Yes, Council, I appreciate that, and I'm certain that the witnesses found that the complexity of research and information was convoluted and difficult, and as a commission, especially of our administration staff, have found the same thing. So we are grateful to you for your research.
Thank you.
And no doubt some of this will end up in our report.
Thank you.
Thank you.
no, I had indicated, Ms. Franco, that I had gone a little ahead of myself, so I'd like to take you back to 29 June 2020 letter,
Yes, Council.
document which you had said to the Commission of Inquiry, and it is in response to the 4th of May letter that we spoke of earlier, which was VF3. Now, on the 29th June 2020, you sent a response to the Commission of Inquiry comprising of 20 pages. You signed that document and dated it. That's correct, Madam?
Yes, Council.
Craven. Now, the 29 June 2020 document which you sent to the Commission of Inquiry, you have that there, Madam?
Yes, Council.
I'm going to ask Chairman that the 20-page document sent by Ms. Franco to the Commission expanding on her claim submitted which I reference in VF1, I'd ask that it be tendered admitted as an exhibit. Exhibit VF4.
4.
Thank you, Chairman.
Yes, document 20 pages tendered by Ms. Valda Franco, dated 29th of July, 2020, will be tendered as Exhibit VF4. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. You may proceed, Madam.
This is my letter addressed to the Secretary of Commission dated the 29th of June, 2020. Inquiry into the historic land laws in Bermuda addressed to Justice Ms. Norma Wade Miller, OBE, JP, Chair, Commission of Inquiry into Historic Land Laws in Bermuda. I have noted the content of your letter dated 4th of May, 2020. Please be advised I have researched and obtained as much information as humanly possible during these unprecedented times to support this inquiry into the historic land laws of my family. As I mentioned in my letter dated the 16th of March, 2020, I am Valda G. Shaletta Franco, submitting this information and/or documentation on behalf of my living and deceased family for the injustice we have all suffered in reference to the above mentioned. My great-grandmother, Miss Charlotte Alice Wood Wellman, and my grandmother, Miss Margaret Genevieve Hollis Nay Wellman, fought to the death to have the following properties returned to them that was legally willed to them. Number 1, number 11 Bosses Cove, Pembroke, the estate of Miss Anna Milia Wood, willed to her daughter, Miss Grace Charlotte Phillip Oates, née Wood. I lived and grew up at number 13 Bosses Cove, next door to number 11, and I remember very clearly the following families that lived there: the Soares family, the Burgess family, and the family of Stephen and Valerie Cabral. Number 2, number 9 Bosses Cove, the estate of Miss Anna Amelia Wood.
Read exactly as you see there in terms of Pembroke HM01, please.
Number 9. Are we starting at number 2?
Yes.
Number 2, number 9. Bosses Cove Road, Pembroke, HM01, the estate of Miss Anne Amelia Wood, willed to her daughter, Miss Grace Charlotte Phillip Oates, née Wood. During my childhood, I also remember the following family living at this property: the Soares family. Number 3, number 7 Bosses Cove Road, Pembroke, HM01, Lot B, the estate of Miss Anne Amelia Wood, willed to her daughter, Miss Grace Charlotte Phillip Oates, née Wood. I remember this family very vividly as I used to babysit for their daughter, Tamara, the family of Nigel and Gloria Prescott. Number 4, number 18 Bosses Cove Road, Pembroke, HM01, Lot A, the estate of Miss Anne Amelia Wood, willed to her daughter, Miss Grace Charlotte Phillip Oates, née Wood. This property was not built at the time I grew up in Bosses Cove. However, I remember the area very clearly. Number 5, additional supporting documentation for number 11, number 9, number 7, and number 18 Bosses Cove. Number 6, lot of land on east side of Bosses Cove, High Point Road, Pembroke Parish. During my time in Bosses Cove and the surrounding area, High Point Road was not that developed. It was just a dirt path that I walked daily to get to St. John's Hill Road to walk to nursery school, later to primary school and high school. I also took this route to my grandmother's house/store, Miss Margaret Genevieve Anastasia Hollis, née Wellman, Cove Lane Variety, which was across from Almonty House, where the Bermuda Regiment was first located and stored their vehicles. I remember the Petty family living at the top of the hill of Bosses Cove on the left and right sides, just past number 7 Bosses Cove as you walk towards Northcote Road. Number 7, Number 16 Places Point Road, Pembroke, HMO1, the estate of Richard Wood. Number 8. Number 18 Places Point Road, Pembroke, HMO1, estate of Mr. Richard Wood. Number 16 and number 18 at Places Point Road was not developed during my childhood. This area was originally called Burnt House, Blocks Point, that was owned by Mr. Richard Wood, where his wife, Nancy, died in the house because of a house fire. I remember visiting relatives in the area, Mr. Bascom Smith and son, Mr. Newbold Smith family, and other family and friends. We would also have family gatherings, picnics, played on the cricket field, and swim at the nearby beach area that was part of the Smith family property. Number 9. Number 1 Newman Lane, Pembroke, HMO1, the estate of Miss Charlotte Ellis Wood Wellman, will to her daughter, estate of Miss Margaret Genevieve Hollis, née Wellman. I visit number 1 Newman Lane property several times with my grandmother, Miss Margaret Genevieve Hollis, née Wellman, who also told me that if anything happened to her, the property belongs to our family. Number 10, 8 acres of land at Boss's Cove and Mills Creek. My grandmother, Miss Margaret Genevieve Hollis, née Wellman, spoke about the above-mentioned properties belonging to our family, and she had the deeds to it from her aunt, Miss Grace Charlotte Phillip Oates, née Wellman. We thank you for giving us the opportunity to have a voice, and would also like to inform you there were other parcels of land taken from our family from Boss's Cove to Shorewood Park, Spanish Point Boat Club to Mills Creek, Pembroke, to name a few.
Now, Ms. Franco, do you have an idea or an estimation or even an actual number? What is the acreage that we are speaking about here? You have named 10 in your 10 bullet points. What's the acreage we're speaking about here?
My initial inquiry, Council, is 8 to 10 acres in the Boss's Cove area. For research of other properties mentioned, I haven't got that far yet.
Now, before we allow you to go further into your presentation, I realize that there are 3 of you here today, family members. 1 person joining your brother by Zoom, yourself and your aunt. What is it that, other than what you already stated, can you share with us exactly what has brought the family here to make this claim, and why you, well, if you feel strongly, you can indicate, but why you feel that this is necessary?
Council, I grew up listening to stories from my great-grandmother and my grandmother, how these properties mentioned belong to us, and they were hoping that one day soon during their lifetime, but now they've passed, that we would actually gain ownership or have ownership. My aunt, Cecilia Lynn Can, she can give more in-depth information. She lived it more than I did in that area or close to that area. My brother, Mr. Hugh Hollis, he can elaborate more on the ancestry side of the family, because he's done that research. And I am the person who put the presentation together, and what I've put together is stated by facts.
Thank you very much for that. Before we continue, would your aunts like to say anything in opening, or should we just go ahead?
Just go ahead.
Okay, Mr. Hollis, would you wish to say anything, or should we just proceed?
Yeah, just simply, Council, I would like to just state that over the years, our family, particularly our ancestors, have put a lot of effort into retaining some of the property that we felt that was incorrectly taken from us. My grandmother in particular, she
Would you just state her name,
did a lot
for
of
me, please?
research,
Huey.
spent many nights.
Huey, Can you state your grandmother's name?
Yes, please state your grandmother's full name. Sorry.
Sorry, say one again?
Please state, you said your grandmother. I'm just asking you
Yes, sorry. Yes,
her full
my
name.
grandmother, Margaret Genevieve Hollis,
Thank you.
which she conducted a lot of research. As you will find out during these proceedings, she represented her family in court proceedings and documented a lot of the things that she'd done in reference to the property that we're here to speak about today. On behalf of our ancestors, we feel that it's prudent that we follow through on some of the things that they started, hoping that we can get some sort of result based on the things that we know of and the things that they felt strongly about, and the property that we felt that was taken from us.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Now, Ms. Franco, could I ask you to continue? We are at page 2 of your presentation at the foot of the document, but I take you to page 3 for you to continue the presentation.
Page 3 of my presentation, Council,
Yes, please.
which starts with our family legacy.
Oh, no, I'm still with the document which is VF4,
Oh,
the document you're reading
Oh,
from.
sorry.
Just going through that document.
Page 3. I have gathered as much supporting information and/or documentation that was readily available. However, it was not able to easily correlate the information due to the missing supporting information and/or documentation for the above-mentioned properties as follows. Number 1, 11 Bosses Cove, Pembroke, HMO1, the estate of Miss Anne Amelia Wood, will to her daughter, Miss Grace Charlotte Philip Oates, née Wood. There is a picture of the, a picture of the assessment numbers for the property number 11 Bosses Cove, which consists of 2, a north apartment and a south apartment.
Thank you. Now, before you take us through that, you mentioned the estate of Mrs. Anne Amelia Wood, who willed to her daughter, Mrs. Great Charlotte Philip Oates. As we go through, could you just remind us who these persons are? Mrs. Anne Amelia Wood?
Counsel, she was my great-great-great-grandmother. And
Great,
she was
great. Three times removed.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And she willed to her daughter, Mrs. Grace Charlotte Philip Oates, who is your great-great.
Yes.
Thank you. You may proceed.
Property was willed to Miss Grace Charlotte Philip Oates on her death in her last will and testament dated the 10th of February, 1956. Left the property to her niece, my great-grandmother, Charlotte Ellis Wood Wellman. Miss Charlotte Ellis Wood Wellman, on her death in her last will and testament dated the 7th of February, 1967, left to my father, George Stamford Llewellyn Hollis, fee simple, who was her grandson.
All right, thank you. Could I just ask you to take us back to what appears to be a Google picture, an impression of a map taken? It shows what appears to be the ocean, it shows roadway, it shows houses that have numbers on them.
Yes.
Can you just take us through what appears on the screen?
So this picture depicts the area in question, Bosses Cove. For number 11 is outlined in red, and this is the property that was owned by Miss Anne Amelia Wood.
Thank you. Now, in respect of 11 appears in relation to a house, and in your presentation you have referenced it as number 11 Bosses Cove Road, Pembroke, HM01. I remind you that earlier in your evidence you had been asked that of the properties referenced, only one which is owned by your aunt, who is seated next to you, actually there is any legal right which is freely exercised with regards to ownership. Now, can you say in respect of this number 11 Bosses Cove Road, who resides here presently?
At the time of my research, the property was owned by Mr. Kevin Manuel Cabral, but I have learned most recently that this property is in the process of being sold.
Kenneth, could you just repeat the full name, please?
Sorry, Kevin Manuel Cabral.
Thank you. And you have recently been advised that there's a process to sell the property.
Yes, Counsel.
Now, in respect of the Craven daughter. Chairman, the copies of the exhibit that we're going through now is being shared.
Thank you, Counsel.
Excuse me, Counsel, Chair. I have a question pertaining to this recent submission that I would like to get some clarification on amongst us. So maybe have a brief recess, perhaps 15 minutes or 10 minutes.
Sure.
Yes, as the chair, I request a brief recess of 15 minutes so that the commissioners can confer on a matter.
Sure.
And we'll rise now for 15 minutes. We'll return at 11:30.
Thank you.